Whoop, I repeat. Oh, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for your waiting. We have Christophe Laudamiel. I do hope a lot of people already know the works of Christophe. And Christophe, we are very pleased to have Christophe there because he recently published a manifesto, and we will see later on what does it mean. And very interesting for what perfume smell, the importance should have in your life, and the importance perfume has in culture. And so we would like to know, the people, we consider more and more scent and fragrances something part of our life, and especially of arts. So I leave to Christophe to astonish us with the presentation. So no one knows what will happen. So close your eyes, open your nose, and go.
One, two, is that working? Yes. So, hi everyone. We are going to start with a little tour, a little flight over several kinds of atmospheres. For this flight of scents, you are going, a flight in English, you should know, is also a little tray for French or Italian-speaking people. So, welcome on board Dreamer. Dreamer is my company, and we create fragrances for large corporations to very, very small niche brands. We create for very commercial projects to very elaborate artistic initiatives with galleries and museums. So before we embark on a tour of smells, you please listen carefully to our safe smelling regulations. Please, next slide. I always show that in all the galleries where I have exhibits, people think, why are we listening? Why is it loud? Who's talking? So I always show this kind of instructions because because people think, number one, you cannot smell more than 3 or 4 fragrances a day in a session. In fact, perfumers, we smell many more. And when people come in a gallery and they smell 10, 15 fragrances, they have no problem with that. So I show them, first of all, I explain to them they should close their eyes. So today you will have most of the presentation in the dark, you shall see. And it helps concentrate on the scent. Why is it that I hear all this thing? It helps concentrate on the scent, and it helps concentrate seeing some stories inside the scent. Also breathe. I know you're a fragrance crowd, but I still, in a lot of meetings, I still see people smelling in a wrong way, I would say, where I hear people smelling. So you should breathe naturally and do not hyperventilate. No things like this. Huh? And now actually there's a new little theory I've seen appearing is comparing to dogs. And dogs, actually, they give tiny little sniffs, but a repetition of brief, tiny sniffs. So it might be a new way of smelling, but this has not been demonstrated yet as being the new better for humans to smell properly. So, we shall see. But at least take your time, and as we say in French, you cannot go faster than the music to smell. So, same, your nose will habituate, you know that very well, but does not get tired, so you can smell a lot of things. And of course, what you smell, the fragrance that you smell after another fragrance will be impacted by the first fragrance that you smell. So here we are going to go over about 20 fragrances, but they've been put in a series, taking into account, let's say, fragrance number 2, comes after fragrance number 1, and it's in a certain order, so that they don't clash, or so that your nose still sees the next fragrance. And you know about breathing your own skin, no coffee beans. I still hear this in the profession so many times. I hope we don't hear about this myth ever again. And then if you get tired at the end, it's not because you smell too much, it's because you have never learned to smell a lot. It's like if you start learning Chinese, at the end of the day, your head is going to explode. And because your brain is learning a new language. So with these little perspectives in mind, let's move on to our little scenario. Next slide. So if the dippers would mind, you should dip scent number 1 and distribute. We should dim the lights. So turn down the lights. We just need enough lights for the dippers to know where they are. So you should distribute. So when I do this kind of performances, the blotters are really counted per rows, etc. So I see people on the walls now. There is not a pack for those people to come back to them. So it has to be organized a bit differently. It's like in a theater. So we are going to start with a little cocktail, 2 little cocktails. Imagine you are at a party, and the waiters are passing by, and they offer a choice of little cocktail. The first one is an absinthe. This is what you're smelling right now. It was shown in a gallery exhibit where 12 scents were shown around a table, like the Last Supper. If you imagine this setting of the Last Supper, the painting. And instead of plates, people had smelling stations. So the first one was a cocktail with the absinthe. And this absinthe has been recreated from an old French recipe. Maybe you know, but absinthe is made by the great absinthe. It's a plant. The smaller absinthe, it's another plant. The great absinthe is wormwood in English, if you've heard of that. Another kind of artemisia is the small absinthe. You have some anise, some fennel, and usually a few other things, such as maybe a little bit of a coriander, or a little bit of peppermint, or a few different other plants, depending on the brewer, if you wish. I like to show the absinthe because, number one, people don't know so much, but a big producing region is actually Switzerland. We always think of absinthe about the wildlife in Paris, but I guess the Swiss invented the wild side of things before they moved to Paris. So in the Jura mountains of Switzerland, they grow a lot of absinthe. And just like many other things in perfumery, in the earlier times, the monks were big in their cloisters to cultivate all these plants. And the same in Italy. You know that one of the cradles of so-called modern perfumery is Italy. And where did that take place? In all these cloisters. So they were mixing herbs as medicines. They were drinking perfumes. They were not really called perfumes. They were potions. They were disinfectants. They were frictions. It was all one thing. And a little interesting twist about absinthe is science, because we thought that Thuyon in absinthe was dangerous for human beings and was attacking the nerve system, where it turns out that you would need, maybe a kilo of Thuyon every month to do anything to you. And in fact, people were getting crazy, dementia, just because of the amount of alcohol there is in absinthe. And all these intellectuals or these workers in Paris were drinking so much of it. It's a very strong alcohol. That's what was creating this delirium tremens. Second, go ahead with the second one. So you can already dip the third one as we're passing the second one. This way it's done. The second one is another cocktail. It's called dark cocktail. And this was shown as an event with Bono and Helena Christensen in New York to open a new music venue. And that was played in the air in the entrance. And it was percolating into the street, so much so that people passing by on the street were asking, oh, what smells so nice in here? And you will see it's a combination of orange with a lot of dark woods, including frankincense. And something that people don't know very much is that in orange, there are some woody notes that when you extract them, they actually smell also of frankincense a little bit. So there are some very interesting woody notes in orange, but tiny amount, and the French industry can concentrate them to extract them, and we can use them. Now with your cocktail, you're going to have a series of little amuse-gueules or petits fours. So the first one, scent number 3, please. The first one is a little wink to the point in time where we were all liquids. And that is the name of the fragrance. I just closed down a solo show in New York called Over 21. For Europe, it would have been Over 18, so meaning for people over 18 or 21. And he had a few, I would say, controversial or sexual thing involved. And that was one of those little wings we had. So this is, so you're sitting in the dark. It is not that you have a pervert next to you, sitting next to you, but it does smell of sperm and egg. Trying to recreate this fresh youth, freshness, what should I call it? Young freshness. You see, it's very optimistic as well, but starting from when we were just liquids, as we say. So that's a little amuse-gueule. So it's not a mise en bouche, when, as we say in French, it would be a mise en nez. Or it's not an amuse-gueule, it would be an amuse-nez, depending on your language. Then from the liquid, you know that I did quite so scent number 4, please. Ah, it's here, that's so loud. So you know I did a lot of work on virgin skin from the book and the movie by Suskind, and he describes in there the smell of a virgin. There is also a publication by Braja Mukherjee in his time at IFF about the smell of real virgins. That was also explained during this movie and book project. And this is the work around that. And it brings about the aldehydes that are coming out of your skin naturally. Like probably you know you have aldehydes coming out of cotton drying in the sun. You have aldehydes coming out of your skin, and those aldehydes are different from the time you're a baby, you're about a teenager, or an adult or an elderly person. And so the ones at the virgin time are more the clean style. And then you will see some little biscuit note in that fragrance because Susskind described his ideal virgin that way. There's a little bit of an apricot note and a little bit of plum effect, a touch of a floral sea like a water lily, honeyish like. Now from being innocent and virgin-like, we go into something much more different, which is scent number 5, which is called burlesque. So you see we are doing several times in life. So you will see this one is a totally different animal. You imagine you're in a cabaret in Berlin in the 20s or the 30s, the early 30s, and you see the dark red curtains, maybe with a little bit of dust on them, but still hanging in that cafe or in that cabaret. The fur worn by the ladies, and this kind of a rich, opulent atmosphere. And that scent was shown in different congresses, and it was even used for a little story, but that's Germany. Huh? They have a wax museum in Hamburg. In that wax museum, you have the statue of Angela Merkel, the statue of Obama, the statue of some rock stars, and you have the statue of the most famous German prostitute who died a few years ago, and she has her statue there. And so I fragrance her statue with that burlesque fragrance as well. So, and when things are all joyful, they might turn, so scent number 6, please, they might turn into something a little bit less joyful. What's happening? Scent number 6. Burlesque was also shown as a scientific congress because scientists are still struggling with the complexity of fragrances. They are still studying mixtures of 1, 2, or 3 molecules, and they're interested when they see complex things. So this one is totally opposite. This is when the joyful moments end up in something less nice, maybe a separation, maybe tears. This one is called Tears, and it was for a project with an artist in New York. And when she exhibited at the Art Museum in Cleveland, the museum actually acquired the piece. So now we also have scent deposited officially in museums as themselves. And so you will see here when things turn sour, things fermented, things got musty and moldy. This is the bad side of things. Smell number 7, please. But at times, when everything seems very dark and sounds so bad, certain things can find birth again from the ashes or from the miasma. And this one, you will see, it's not a phoenix, it's more, what would you call that? More licorne. It's called the bay horse. So you will see, you imagine you're next to a horse, but you think you're like right underneath the horse after the horse run, or the horse is going to go somewhere after practice. And the interesting part is that we used a lot of a dark chocolate absolute in that horse. So now if you think dark chocolate, you're going to see the horse, and in the end of it, you're going to see this dark chocolate effect. And you should know that in chocolate there are very animalic, dirty feet notes. If you remove them, the chocolate tastes like plastic. Those yummy notes, you know them very well in perfumery. So if you see now in that bay horse going from the horse into a fantasy chocolate. Well, fantasy, not sweet, but because it's linked to other things. So scent number 8. So remaining in those fantastical moments. Maybe in dark dreams. You know, the horses were shown a lot in those paintings about people dreaming about the dark side of life, or especially in the paintings of the 19th century. Fantastical was another solo exhibit I did in New York, illustrated by a Broadway illustrator. And this one is, imagine you're on your horse and you're climbing the slopes of a volcano. Maybe you know the movie Shrek. At one point, they are getting close also to a volcano. And you have the lava, the dark lava. The lava is ripping your shoes. This is real story. If you walk a lot on lava, even your very strong ranger shoes will get cut off. And you can start smelling the smoke, maybe coming from a lava tube. You're surrounded by some dark shadows in the night. Or maybe you're climbing Mount Fuji, if you've done that already. During the night, you climb this volcano during the night. You trip on rocks, and you trip on lava, and you trip on dirt. And you have very svelte, maybe 90-year-old Japanese guy passing you, and you're like, my God, I hope I can reach that age at least. And so this is the kind of thing. And then, so please scent number 9. But all of a sudden, you're coming back down the volcano. You might be on a volcano in Hawaii. I don't know if you've been there. They are gentle volcanoes. The lava is very fluid, and so it doesn't explode. And when you walk down that volcano, or that volcano park, you arrive by the very wet area, for instance, on the hillside, the jungle, and this is a fragrance called Jungle 2. And you can see, so if you can see the dark soil, you can see the moss on the tree, the trunks. And now if I tell you what about the ginger lily and the fresh orchids, and the moisture that is in that jungle, you see it as well. Depending on what you think about, you will see the two facets. So the dark moss, the forest floor, or the ginger lilies and other little, ginger lily is not an orchid, but other little orchids and florals. Scent number 10. And when you're around that jungle in Hawaii, you see those people walking around like some young dude walking like by the streets or like by the road in Hawaii on the Big Island, and you're wondering what they're doing. And this is the question I had asked the guide, and this is what they're selling: medical marijuana, so-called medical. So this has only perfume allowed ingredients to recreate that smell. And there are more and more people interested in recreating such smells to study the effect that just the idea, the name, and the smell has on the mind of the people without the substance itself. This one is called Secret Grass. Scent number 11. And as those people are smoking their grass in Hawaii, it might help them reach paradise. So the next scent here that you are getting is called Paradise. It's a niche fragrance by Nest Fragrances in New York. Everybody has it? And I like to show it because you will see it's very citrus and very fresh, zesty citrus, a lot of orange, blood orange. There is ginger as well in there. And if you've noticed, there are not so many citrus fragrances on the market that are juicy. And there are reasons to that. It's because citrus notes, people don't know, but they're a pain in the neck to use. They're a pain in the neck for the perfumer because they disappear very fast. As soon as you put too much patchouli, too much this, too much that, they disappear. The zestiness disappears. They're very fragile. They have to be kept in a fridge. For stability, if the fragrance sits in the heat for too long, the zestiness will disappear. And for a factory, they're also a nightmare. They're very volatile. They have a low flash point. They're explosive, etc., etc. And it took 5 runs of the factory to make the first batch, proper batch of this fragrance, and till we defined a special procedure to keep this fragrance. So citrus notes are loved by everybody, and I love to use them. They are, however, a pain in the neck, and a lot of people I find give up on them. Bon, they are used in a lot of fragrances, but bergamot is actually much more robust than orange or lemon, for instance. Now that you remember you had those guys smoking their thing in Hawaii to reach their little paradise, then maybe you walk further around. Scent number 12, please, is you reach a wood cabin. Imagine you reach a wood cabin, and this is the wood cabin. You enter it. There might be a fire going on, a fireplace. You see also the turf in front of the cabin, the wood, a little bit of moistiness, a little bit of fur. So this is actually for a niche candle brand called Keep Brooklyn. They are getting bigger and bigger, KEAP. And the wood cabin is one of their most successful scents in the range. And they showed me some inspiration picture. One of the pictures had a wood cabin and they had a bear next to it. I said, you want the bear? I said, oh yeah, sure. So if you smell that wood cabin, you will see a little fur effect, animalic fur, and that's the bear next to the cabin. That's how you can put a little bit of humor in scents. And so you open that wood cabin and you smell scent number 13. That's also a scent that did quite some exhibitions. So imagine you arrive in this wood cabin. You open it, and it smells like an opium den. So that scent was shown at a 1-year-long exhibit at the Basel Culture Museum in Switzerland about opium. It was organized by the United Nations delegate to drug usage, and she's the one actually working for the German government on these in these countries. And I recreated a few of those opium-inspired smells, in part by going to the Pharmacy Museum in Basel, who has quite some opium samples. Because Basel, is known for a lot of pharmaceutical companies, and opium is still the plant of choice to make morphine for hospitals, which is still one of the best painkiller there is for patients in hospitals. And for your information, there are about 6 or 7 countries that are allowed by the United Nations to grow opium officially, such as France, India, Australia, a few others. And they grow about, I think, 6,000 or 7,000 tons of opium a year. In Afghanistan, just Afghanistan grows 6,000 tons itself of opium a year, illegal opium. So that tells you the immensity of the issue, if we want to say, of opium in Afghanistan. And this lady was saying, I don't know one family in Afghanistan that does not grow opium. So it makes you think when some people want to come and say, okay, we have to erase these bad drugs from Afghanistan, but it's more than just that. The families are counting on this as a source of revenue, illegal revenue that is, but it has to be solved in a very clever way. So as whomever, maybe it's Yves Saint Laurent in his wood cabin, smoking his opium, smell, can you distribute smell number 14? And you have those people getting spacey on their little cushion. So with that exhibit, I learned a lot about this ritual. It's a whole ritual with a lamp and a cushion and laying down and and so they get so this scent is called space wood. So this is a scent that is going to come out with my new brand called the Zoo. And there will be a whole range of scents to wear, niche fragrances to wear. This one is Space Wood, and this I like to show, and I created with Christophe Hornets, to show how a scent can bring you in the future. A scent is not only about reminding you the smell of your grandmother and the smell of your vacation and the smell of when you were a kid and the smell of the fun fair, and which are all interesting smells, but they're also smells that should be about the future, about something fantastical, something dreamy, something that does not exist, etc., etc. And so this is more one open, as I say, to possibilities and large spaces and thinking about the future. Space wood. So we'll have 2 more in the dark. So number 15 now. So that's number 15. As you're laying down, imagine you're laying down in that, not really that cabin now anymore, but let's say you're at a Roman banquet, a Roman feast or orgy. Or imagine you're in a castle where all these middle-aged kings and queens were having huge banquets and celebrations. And all of a sudden, there's a whiff of air and it smells like this. A flight of doves. You know the doves, the pigeons, the white pigeons? A flight of doves. So what was happening is that in Roman times, in Middle Age times, in those castles, people were fragrancing doves, white pigeon, with a scent, and they would let the pigeon fly among the guests to fragrance the air and give them an extra sensation. So I just recreated here the feeling of the feathers, a little bit of powderiness. It was probably not the smell they had at the time because you need molecules to do this. They didn't have molecules. So at the time, they were most likely fragrancing the dolls with natural ingredients. So maybe myrrh, incense, anise, cinnamon, nagarmota, all these kind of smells. And to give some, you should know also at that time the smells were diluted in honey or were diluted in wine or in vinegar, not in alcohol. So you can also imagine the smell of those concoctions. And now that you're leaving your little Asian trip and coming back to Milan, going through the sea, so smell number 16, please. So imagine you're diving into the sea, going in the deep, deep down into the sea. You look from underneath, you see the seaweed, a little bit of light from above. This one is called Silence the Sea. It's by Strangelove NYC. That brand is in the top 10 niche brands at the Salon de Parfum at Harrods. And they're entering now other prestigious department stores. And Silence the Sea is based on a lot of ambergris, and real ambergris. So it is not here because I do use Ambrox as well, but it's not that. There is real ambergris. I make my homemade infusion of it. And this fragrance also is at the safety limit of Tuberose Absolute and of Jasmine Absolute, and has a lot of Narcisse Absolute as well. And especially the Narcisse and the Tuberose, you will see, you wouldn't say it's a floral fragrance. It's there to give the depth, the darkness, the earthiness of that fragrance, along with some seaweed absolute and other, there is no cologne, but other sea-like molecules that I use quite a bit to give the sea effects without the cologne effects. So you can see how if you know the movie The Deep Blue, Le Grand Bleu in French, when the hero is diving in his last dive into the darkness of the sea. So that is a bit of the story of this one. So let's have the light back on. The light's back on. Next slide.
Do you have remote control or not?
Yeah, I do need it now, the remote control. Where is the remote control? Here. Yes, light slowly. Voila, thank you. And
For forward?
this one. Voila. So, we still have, sorry, my eyes. We still have, I would like to do 4. We have time to do 4. It's a little exercise, you will see. It's smelling, but there's an exercise with some visuals. But could you see a little bit what I was talking about? Or the different facets, the different stories, the different things? And how going from one scent to the next, you can still see the following smell of the scent. So we did 16 scents right there. And so you see it's manageable. It's all about how it's arranged. And you have to help the people also a little bit smelling. Huh? So now in the light, we're going to do something. So the one thing I didn't have because I didn't prepare the way I should have was there was some little bit of music to show the influence of music with scent in the dark. So that's another story I do at times. And here now it's going to be scent and visuals, especially you will see with this salon where there are a lot of fabulous visuals. I want you to understand how it functions. I do these experiments also at scientific congresses because even scientists, they couldn't believe it works this way. So that's going to make you think next time you smell in what environment. So let's So you have the scent here? No. You have to pass and then you smell. You're not allowed to smell first and then pass. Otherwise, they're waiting here. Hurry up. Oh, they don't know which end. Okay. Valentina, you have to have one too. Otherwise, you don't know what you're smelling. There should be plenty for the row. It's burrow. Okay, so now you smell this. It's a note we use a lot for milk, to recreate milk scent. Okay? So you see the milk. If you're good, you see the warm milk. You see, usually we call that the hot milk or warm milk effect. Now watch this. So you smell, okay? Now, do you see that? But you have to smell. You cannot tell if you... But do you see it? No, if you don't have it in front of your nose, you won't know it. If you don't smell, you won't see it. Do you see? And then if I go back, you see the milk again? You see the milk? And now you see the ham? It's crazy, no? The brain, within half a second, the brain is very good at interpreting, and the brain is very good at connecting the dots. But the brain is very lazy, so it's going to take the obvious dots. So in that scent, it's one molecule though, that. And it's not even a complex scent. It's one molecule. So depending on what else the brain sees, the brain says, oh yeah, I see that. Oh, I see this. And we have the same problem in perfumery when you smell fragrances. Imagine you're in a conference room. The conference room is white. You see the fragrance a certain way, and the client is there. Oh, but it's not dark enough, it's not dark enough, it's not dark enough. I guarantee you, if you go to a conference room that's black, then the fragrance will be dark enough. You have to really think. We're going to do some other ones like this, because it's crazy. Here, next one. Next. So take a few. Oops. No, like this, now you have to take, yeah. And think we have about 1,000 molecules in perfumery, and that was only one. So we have a lot of possibilities and a lot of tricks. So this one, Muguet patch. So it's a lily of the valley, Muguetto. Hein? You know, voilà. You know Muguet? That's Muguet. I hope you know Muguet here. So can you see the Muguet? Okay. Now, so you smell. Can you see the pear in there now? You see the pear? Crazy, no? You see the Muguet? But you see the pear. Well, it turns out in Muguet naturally, there is a lot of, it's so-called citronelyl acetate. It's a molecule that's also found a lot in pear. So there's one molecule that constitutes a lot of Muguet, a lot of the pear that is found in both. It's a big coincidence. The Muguet is not a tree. The pear is not a little grass like the Muguet. It's two totally different plants. But just like you know very well in lavender and in bergamot, you have some similar molecules as well. In fact, some, I would say, dark bergamots, they really smell like lavender. So you see this all the time. Now, you smell. Do you see the greenness? Do you see the cut grass, maybe? The green leaves, the cut grass? You see? And yes, in Muguet, you have also a note that you find in cut grass. You also find it in Granny Smith. If you think Granny Smith, you might see the Granny Smith. You see? And it really happens in not even 2 seconds, it's half a second. You go like this, you're like, oh, and then you go like, oh. Yeah. No, even the scientists couldn't believe it. They were like... So, we're going to do a more complex one. And so it also shows you that you can present a fragrance under different names or different packaging or different clients. It is not cheating. You're cheating if there's no apricot and you say there's apricot. If there's no pear and you say it's pear, and it's like, people be like, no. Here, you see how it's like a color. You can sell red like danger or like fire. You can sell red like a strawberry, right? Or you can sell red like a rose. It's two different things. You're not lying on the red. It's the same with the scent. Very important. So this one is a bit more elaborated. Took me a while to come to these experiments, to put the finger on it. And it's one day by coincidence, I don't know what I was doing or watching pictures or that all of a sudden with one smelling strip, that all of a sudden the scent changes as I was watching the pictures. But that's, I'm thinking also when you present fragrances to other people, or another symptoms we have all the time, is that you smell a new rose or smantus or whatever with a supplier, you know it smells good. And then you go back to your office, you smell, and it doesn't smell the same. There is also that factor in there. So this one, I'll tell you the name afterwards. So smell it looking at this. You see some clear notes, floral notes, green notes. You see? Bon. Now do you see that in there? You see the animal in there? And now do you see the forest? I mean, you see maybe the turf of the forest, and you see how we went from one clean thing to something much different. So that smell is actually called, the visuals, I put them afterwards to do some exercises like that. That smell is actually the whip and the orchid. So it's very leathery. It's an homage to Mapplethorpe. And you know that he had these very sexual, leathery, leather scene pictures. And he had those beautiful, pure pictures of florals, orchids and tulips and a few other flowers that had a long stem, so quite green, and then a little flower on the top. That's very Mapplethorpe. And so I wanted to assemble the two in one scent. So in here you will see the little innocent feeling and greenness and moisture of the little orchids, and then a very dark, leathery, woody, animalic aspect. So, and now to come down, we're going to do one little exercise just on something innocuous. So, let's be clear. It doesn't mean that perfumery is shaky, and it does not mean that perfumery is subjective. What we are doing here. I told you, it's just like music. It's just like colors. At home, you should do that. You take one red wine. You drink it listening to bass, or to the funeral march, or to something really dark music. You drink your wine, you will see all these deep notes, and then you put a ukulele music in Hawaii or a little fluffy dance, whatever. You will see, all of a sudden, you're going to see the light notes in the wine much more than the dark notes. So this is, yeah. So, in fact, perfumery is much more objective than we think. So some blotters are a bit too deep, but that's okay. Voila. And we'll end on this. So I put a little bit too much here. So just go like that, if we can. Oops. So this one, keep it more like this. We're going to do the exercise like that. First, you're going to try to think of tobacco, blonde tobacco box. You try to open the tobacco box or a blonde cigar or this type, and you go like this, just little whiffs, because this is found in tobacco, but very small amounts. But you will see it's that little fruitiness in tobacco. So don't keep it like this because you're going to see other things. But do you see a little whiff? You could say it's a tobacco leaf when you go like this, really. You see a little bit, or don't say yes just to make me happy. Bon. Now you forget the tobacco. Now you're going to think of honey. So think a flowy acacia honey, or you go like this if you're less romantic. So you see, think honey. Do you see that? So it's also found in honey. Now you stop. Now you're going to think of, apple jelly, or quince. You know the quince jelly? So think that. You see, you want to put the knife through it with the cheese, or just very aptly. To me, it's very cooked apple, even, in fact, even more than quince. You see that? And now the last thing. No, there are two things still. No. One is the very top note of a Sauvignon Blanc, but not the cassis, the fruitiness. The fruitiness of a nice, you could say a Gewürztraminer as well, a nice, fruity, fresh, white wine. You see? And now, so just breathe 2 minutes. And now the last one, you think of a rose bouquet. But also faint for the bouquet. Voilà. So that's damascenone. It's one molecule that is found in all these things I've just talked about. And we use it a lot in perfumery in small amounts. And it's to show you also the diversity and the chameleon effect of what we do. Voilà, so I hope you found it interesting. I hope it's going to give you some ideas for everything you do. And thank you for attending so well. Voilà.
And now the round
I know,
table,
this is the
5 minutes, and we will start with the round table.